Hi, my name is Pak Chin Yi. Thank you for joining us today. We gather today in the face of the painful string of hate crimes for the last year against our AAPI community, in the face of the 6 Asian women who were killed in Atlanta, and to really acknowledge that while we are here to stop Asian hate, the issue is not simply hate, it is white supremacy and must be addressed as such. Which is why we proudly stand here in solidarity today with my friends from Warriors in the Garden, a collective of non-violent activists dedicated to protecting BIPOC communities from all forms of systemic oppression. So I wanted to take a minute before moving forward, as we are here today in the name of solidarity, to define what solidarity means. Solidarity is when we understand and commit to taking responsibility for one another. It's when we hold space for each other together, to grieve, to heal, to tell our stories, to express joy, to hold each other accountable. Today we ask, what can we do together? Because together we can lift the sky. True diversity does not exist in the black and white binary, in the gender binary. True diversity and true humanity is intersectional. It lies in the intersectionality of all of the various fabrics and tapestries that make up who we are. What happened in Atlanta and the deaths of these 8 victims in particular do not exist in a vacuum. They happened at the intersections of white supremacy, gun violence, racism, misogyny, discrimination against sex workers, the fetishization of the Asian women, and the overall objectification and dehumanization of the BIPOC woman in this country. What happened in Atlanta is a textbook example of what the country allows to happen again and again to BIPOC women on an institutionalized level when we allow white supremacy to go unchallenged time and time again. When we allow Breonna Taylor's killers to walk free. When we move on, even though they did not call Atlanta a hate crime, we allow white supremacy to go unchallenged. And today, that is what we will not do. To get to the root of this violence, we must work together to break the silence. We may have different roots, but we stand grounded today in our common root against white supremacy. And we can only truly combat white supremacy when we stand united as BIPOC women and communities. What happened in Atlanta is an important moment for our community and for all BIPOC women, because if we can stem the tides of how often things like this happen in history and commit to speaking up out against them, we can stop injustices like this from happening again and again, together and united. Our liberations are bound within each other's. I'm not free until you're free, and we're free. We may not fight the same fight, but we fight the same system of white supremacy. And we are so sick of our BIPOC women dying in vain and vengeance under it. Our fetishization has made us economically vulnerable, feeding perceptions of us as cheap and disposable. Asian businesses are suffering most dramatically in the face of the pandemic due to our xenophobia and hate. So let's please remember to support our local businesses around us and remember that we are in their space. And as an Asian advocate, I must stress the importance of intersectional representation for our community, because you may showcase me, but why didn't you showcase the 6 Asian women who died in vain in Atlanta? Why did you first humanize the killer in your reporting before you even mentioned the names of our mothers who were lost? When you only show us as crazy rich Asians and bling empire, you dehumanize our existence as a greater marginalized community, and you render the existence of every single worthy individual who lies at the intersections and margins that are lost invisible, further perpetuating our violence and the model minority myth. So please hold space for me as I shatter your illusion of me as a quiet, soft-spoken, docile Asian woman, and tell you that we Asian women have a habit of making others feel comfortable even when they kill us in cold blood. When I say respect all Asian women's lives, I mean respect the victims. Respect Asians beyond those you would associate as deserving. Respect us to actually learn who we are, to tell our stories, to humanize us if you want to include us for who we are. When white America only showcases what they quantify as a respectable Asian, they create a culture where the dead bodies of 6 Asian women are only immediately further dehumanized. It creates a culture that further perpetuates these cycles of violence that we stand complicit to, that we're gonna break. And the difference between who was respected and who was not in this case was the difference of life or death for these 6 women. White supremacy pits all of our marginalized and oppressed BIPOC communities against each other with the model minority myth to shame and blame each other for their injustices, to mask their role. It's not you or me, or shame on me or you, when the only shame is on them. Shame! Shame! And there is no shame in unlearning our biases here today in the name of justice. Shame is a tool of injustice and white supremacy. And shame kills empathy. We can't use shame as a social justice tool because shame kills empathy, and empathy is the foundation of all love and justice. Say it again. Empathy is the foundation of all love and justice. Solidarity means challenging and dismantling our own biases and shames as well, and growing our own capacities for empathy as humans, because not until we do that do we create true solidarity. We are not here today to compare experiences. We are only truly divided when we don't know one another, when we don't make space to truly listen, hear, and empathize with one another. Our stories as Asians have always been filtered through whiteness. No one really knows us. You don't know me, and now you hate me because of what you don't know. When we say stop Asian hate, we don't mean just stop hating us. We mean humanize us. We mean value us. We mean include us. We mean make us worthy and deem our stories worthy. We're here today to tell our true stories, who we really are, not who they tell us we are, but what makes you you, your roots, your culture, your experiences, your stories as BIPOC women. Because when we understand and come together in that, we are undefeatable. It's our chance to tell our stories too as Asian women. For many of us, our first, because for far too long, our experiences have been silenced and misunderstood. This is a moment of racial reckoning for our whole Asian American community and for a lot of us on an individual level. And it's also personally mine, saying enough is enough after a lifetime of silence. I've been misunderstood. I've been completely and utterly destroyed and lost in the labyrinth of white supremacy. Where did my identity go? The self-love, the self-acceptance. Why did the country I grew up in teach me to hate who I was and where I came from? I will fight and speak out for my community, because I could not face the reality that another young girl would have to come into this country and wait 22 years to love who she is. You strip the love away from my body like you strip it of its worth and value. You strip the lives away from our mothers and elders like you strip this country of its humanity and unity. What happened to unity, to the American dream? If this is your idea of the American dream, America, I want no part in it. Maybe the American dream isn't a dream, but rather the nightmare of a country we awaken to today, where bodies drop at the wrath of white supremacy like flies and dust in the air. To you, they're your dreams, but to me and every other single BIPOC woman, there are nightmares. To you, I'm your exotic dream, your punching bag, your labor, your bad day. But to me, I am joy, I am love, I am worth. Today, I stand here with you all to commit to rebuilding the American dream, to be the dreams of all people, all BIPOC, to be the dreams of true equality, humanity, intersectionality, justice, peace, and unity for all BIPOC women and communities. That's my American dream. Today we pave this new American dream together as we hold this new space for the Asian woman, for the misunderstood woman of color. I see and I feel the pain of the little girl who was used and abused and tossed around for the color of your skin, the squint of your eyes, the fetish of your body, who was made to hate who she was because they hated you so much, because you were me. I feel your pain and it breaks me, and I am so sorry. I know you were lost, and I just want you to know here you are found, here you are heard, here you are loved, here you are respected, and you are protected, and you will be fought for. So please, fight for yourself, speak up, do not be afraid in the face of this hate, because I am not. That's what they want us to be, so that's what we won't be. When we give into fear, we let hate win, and today we win against hate with love. Did anyone tell you today that they love you? Because I do. Let's all commit today to loving more, and to love more means to love someone today that you might not have loved yesterday. Thank you.
Y'all, Jeannie ate that speech the fuck up. You know, the reason why I wanted to do by POC women in solidarity and not just Black and Asian was because I didn't realize that we forgot about the others. Well, I did. I'm gonna speak for myself. I forgot. I was so wrapped up in the Atlanta tragedy and our suffering that I forgot that a few months ago there were women in ICE detention centers getting their uterus removed. I forgot that indigenous women are being raped and stolen. Not their land, physically stolen. They are missing right now. Shame! You know, Black people have been leading our, Black women have been leading our movement. Black women have been leading our movement, yet we are still treated as bottom of the barrel. And you know, I know a lot of Black women can't feel this, but I'm fighting for y'all. I'm fighting for y'all.
Take your time. Take your time.
Until last year, on May 29th, the first George Floyd protest, I thought we were alone. I thought Black people, Black women were alone, having to fend for themselves. But since May to today, people have come out continuously. People have shown out. Now, I'm not gonna pat you on your back, but thank you. While we're here in this space, I want everyone who is not a Black person to understand that if you are going to be an accomplice in our fight for liberation, you cannot support the police. You cannot support this, the one of the many things that is making us suffer every day. You cannot support them because it benefits you. then you're not a true accomplice. Since we are talking about solidarity, we have to touch on that. Recently, I've been trying not to speak as much at protests because my anger just turns into instant sadness now. But even with all this sadness, even with all this anger that I'm feeling, I will not stop fighting for the marginalized. I simply cannot go back. There is no living normal. I don't even know what normal is. This is my life. I'm gonna end it with saying thank you to everyone who in this movement, in our movement, that has protected me, that has supported me, and that has supported our goal. And I cannot wait for us to disrupt those bitch-ass people in their fucking seats with our unity.
Don't censor shit. Tell them the way it is. Y'all make some noise for Queen.
Make some noise for Queen Jean, leading Stonewall protests every Thursday. And if you don't know what Stonewall is, well, she could tell you.
Hello. Hi. Hello, everybody. How y'all feeling? Y'all good? I said, are y'all good? Black lives? Black lives? Black lives? Black lives? Black women? Black women? Black women? Black queer? Black queer? Black trans, black non-binary, black non-binary, black non-binary, black children, black men, black men, black men, black families, black families, black families, black community, black community, black community, black education, black education, black healthcare, black healthcare, black mental health, black mental health, black freedom, black freedom, black joy, black joy, black love, black love, black love. There is love. Thank you, family. Y'all good. Hi, everybody. Family, we are just so grateful. I am so grateful. I just want to first acknowledge, thank you to our siblings, thank you to the phenomenal women of Words in the Garden, thank you for inviting us today to come out. Thank you to our community members for Stop Asian Hate, because this is something that is unacceptable. That we are still fighting for our lives, that we are still fighting for liberation. That it is not something that will be promised to us. It is not something that is guaranteed to us. So before we begin, I'd love to introduce myself. Hi, because there's some new faces. My name is Queen Jean, Q-W-E-E-N, because I am undeniably black and femme, period. Period. so we're sure, yes, I am a black trans woman, and I am nobody's bottom. Period. If you know, you know. We are here because we are no longer accepting this idea of soft power. There's no soft power. There's only radical power. There's only black power. There is going to be black liberation. And that liberation is married to our liberation for this entire community, for our Asian family members, for our Asian community members. As our siblings said earlier, the reality is the fight between us, between women of color, black, indigenous women of color. Our stories actually align so much. It mirrors so much that as women of color that we are terrorized. We are met with such violence. We are not given adequate opportunities, adequate health care. We are not given adequate anything. Whatever black women or women of color acquire, it is something that we have had to cultivate. We have had to generate. We have had to sustain. And that really exists from all facets. Because being a woman is a gift. Being a woman is truly a miracle. But in this world, it is something that we have to fight for. That we have to fight against prejudice, against racism, against white supremacy. Because these are the very systems that are continually killing us, that are continually attacking us. Transphobia, misogyny, xenophobia, it all is part of a system. So family, what I am so grateful that we are here in solidarity, because in solidarity is a commitment. In solidarity is not a one-time subscription. It is not just when it's sunny outside. Solidarity is each and every day. Your solidarity does not mean when another person is killed. Your solidarity does not activate when another black person is killed. When another beautiful Asian woman is killed. Your solidarity must be activated each and every day. When you wake up, you say, I am ready to fight. When you wake up, you say, I will fight for freedom. I will fight for black liberation. I will fight for black trans liberation. If you are here in this crowd, if you are here with our community to say you are standing and you will fight in solidarity, well, my dear, you must wake up. Wake up! Wake up! Because this is not just a fight for the people that are in their homes, that are people that are tucked away, the people that are still holding on to racism, that are still holding on to Trump 2020. Absolutely not. If you are standing here with us, if you are making a declaration, then you are here each and every day. And that does not mean that you are only in the streets. That means that when you leave from this place, that you have work to do. When you leave from this place, you have got unlearning to do. That even within our own cultures, not just black culture and black love, but in Asian culture, indigenous culture, Latinx culture, literally in every facet, we find that there is prejudices, that there is colorism, that there is texturism, that bodyism, that when you show up, if you do not look a particular way, if you are not carried in a particular way that is seen as presentable, your life is not somehow as worthy. And that is not something that we will accept. Because if you are standing here in solidarity, that means that you are going to commit to fighting for freedom. And that freedom is really, it is here. That freedom is here. Look around, that freedom is here. In this moment, I would love, because I feel like, I would love for all of our beautiful women of color to come on to the front. Come on to the front, come on to the front. Come on, oh yes, you don't have to be shy. Come on up to the front, women of color, our trans women, our non-binary siblings. Come on to the front.
Also, to all the Asian women in the crowd, understand that y'all are people of color, okay? Y'all are people of color. Saying otherwise is erasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I love you.
Okay, thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. You good? Okay. You good. Beautiful.
I love you.
Okay, come on. We're going to affirm it. We're going to affirm it. Beautiful women, look around. I would love for you to look to your left and look to your right. See the beauty. See the humanity. H-U-E. Humanity that exists here. See the power that exists here. That power lies within you and lies within myself. I am not a leader. You are a leader. We are all leaders in our mind, in our bodies, in our spirit. When we wake up because we have a purpose. We wake up because we have a plan. That plan is for your success. Not only for yourselves, but for your family. As women, it is your instinct, our instinct, to nurture, to heal, even when there's no book for it. There's no guidebook. We all know how to cook good. We all know how to beautify and to enhance all of the ugliness that the world throws at us. We not only make it beautiful, we transform it. We revolutionize it. We take the hate. We take the transphobia. We take the misogyny. We take the xenophobia and we massage it. And we caress it until it is ours, until we have transformed it into our power, until we utilize it for our power, for our strength. Because that truly is what it means when you are a woman of color living in America, when you are a woman of color who is fighting for your existence, fighting for your validation. But I'm here to tell you that you don't need validation. You are enough. Women of color, you are enough. You are enough. You are courageous. You are beautiful. You are monumental. And we will not be stopped by white supremacy. We will not be stopped by any racist systems. We will end systemic racism. And family, in order to really do that, we have got to abolish these racist systems. On this beautiful day, on Janet Jackson's Saturday, it is our right to fight for our freedom. Oh yes, y'all better know. Family, truly, 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 I thank you all for being out here. But we have to understand that this fight is not on us. It is not for women of color to fight for our freedom. It is your right to fight for us. If you realize, whenever a woman, if you know, as history has told us, whenever women come together, they get scared. They are intimidated because they don't know what we got cooking up in our pocketbook. They don't know what we got cooking up in our wigs, in our makeup. They don't know what we got cooking up. But what we have cooking up is power. It's radical power and radical love. Because this is a community. But this will be an everlasting community of change, of permanent change. And it should not take for another black woman to be attacked for you to get energized, for you to be activated and propelled to fight. It should not have taken for the innocent angels in Atlanta for us to have to say, stop Asian hate. It should not take for another black trans woman to have been killed. It is now 10 black trans women killed in 2021 for us to realize that this is a state of emergency. This is a state of emergency. Today, when we take out onto the streets, know that it is your right to hold space. It is our right to hold space. They will try to label us all things: radicals, terrorists, angry black. Well, let me tell you something. I am a black woman, yes. I am an angry black woman, yes. I am a powerful black angry woman. And I will not be stopped. You will not be stopped, my angels, my beautiful angels. Our non-binary siblings, our gender non-conforming powerful angels. We will not be stopped. Because when we leave from this place, we now have the support of our accomplices. Oh yes. Accomplices, y'all here? Oh no, that sounded a little low. Accomplices, are you here? Oh yes. To our accomplices. If today is your first day in the revolution, you are late. But that is fine. We have work to do. We have work to do. And that work truly, it starts with yourselves. It starts with ourselves. We have got to say, what have I been doing? What have I been thinking? Do I even acknowledge the Asian women that I go get my manicure? Right? Do I go to the Asian women to get my wigs? Do we acknowledge that this is a community that we have been taking from, but do we replenish? Do we give back to the black women that continually give? That give, that give, that give. Are we replenishing? To our community members, to our indigenous women and our siblings. Are you giving back? Or have you only been taking? Ask yourself, have you only been taking? Have you only been going and opening us up? Take what you need. They don't even close the door.
Shame!
Shame. 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 So when we leave from this place, you have now been given your marching orders. And your marching orders will have to start in your own homes. Your marching orders will have to start when you get to your institutions of work, institutions of education, institutions of racism. We need to go up in there and fight for our liberation and demand justice for our liberation. It is not because we are beautiful. It is not because we are shaped the way that we are that we come in such beautiful hues that make us the enemy. As so many of us have been feeling that somehow we are fetishized. The very thing that they are attracted to is the very thing that they hate about us. My sisters, my siblings, the very thing that they love and desire about us is the very thing that they hate. And we will no longer be jeopardized by your hate. We will no longer be compromised by your hate. That shit ends now. That shit ended yesterday. That shit ended last year. Because for our sibling, Breonna Taylor, there was no justice.
Shame!
Shame! There was no justice for the 42 black trans women killed in 2020. There was no justice to our Asian women that were attacked, raped, harassed, that we couldn't even come forward. Because again, that is white supremacy. That we know that even if we come forward, who will believe us? If we come forward, who will even say anything? Will they even give us respect? Will they often ask, well, what did you do? Well, what did you do to provoke? Well, what were you wearing? Fuck you. I get to wear whatever the hell I want. Fuck you. We get to do whatever we want. In jeans, if we show up in booty shorts, if we show up in lingerie, even if we show up in a flannel shirt, however way we show up, that is our power. Respect it. Respect it. Woo! Will you fight for my freedom? Yeah! Will you fight for my freedom? Yeah! Will you fight for my liberation? Yeah! Will you fight for my liberation? love to see it. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, if you're just tuning in, we're in Columbus Park, in New York City.
Women are so amazing.
Smash the like button, share the stream.
Before I introduce the next speaker, I just want to elaborate that this is not an anti-Black space. This is not a transphobic space. This is not a homophobic space. This is not an anti-Asian space. This is not an anti-Latinx space. If you think it is an anti-anything against people of color space, you can just exit. Oh, okay. I just thought I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. Because we are in Chinatown, I want to address my Chinese friends and family. 大家好，我叫唐宁娟，我19岁，和我是第一年 NYC 学生。Hello everybody, my name is Emma Tang. I am a 19-year-old activist and I am so honored to be with you all today. And I want to remind everyone here that privilege comes in so many forms and to remember to recognize yours. And today I'm here to use my privilege to advocate. I want to make 2 points today. One, addressing my own experience with COVID-related racism, and the second on solidarity. I have been harassed and abused for being Asian for so many years, but a few months ago things turned physical when I was sitting in front of a Chinese establishment with a group of friends eating dinner. A white man came up to me and he hit me over the head with a dirty sheet. I was the only Asian person in a group of people of color and sitting in front of a Chinese restaurant. And for me, while I tried to process, my friend told me that I had just been hate crimes. The statistics of hate crimes against Asian people has skyrocketed over the past year by 150%. And women are much more likely to be harmed. As an Asian American woman, I don't go outside at night. Every time I go into the subway station, I look behind me. Because is somebody gonna push me? On the platform, it's the same fear. And in the past couple days, a 19-year-old girl was shot in the head for being Asian.
Shame! Shame! It's okay, we love you!
We love you,
I am 19. Are we next? Because every time I leave my home, I have to be on guard. Because I am afraid that I might not make it home. I was hate crimed 2 blocks from my apartment. And so I thought I might share a piece that I wrote about unaddressing my country.
It's okay, Emma. Take your time. Take your time.
We love you!
Take your time. You got this. You got this.
Dear America, you are xenophobic because you don't want us as Chinese Americans, but you want our labor and our products, and yet you see us as dirty and cheap. Your president, and yes, Biden, and media blames China for its factories and its role in things like climate change, but yet you buy most of your products from us.
Talk about it!
You print our patterns and our culture on your clothes, and you stick chopsticks in your hair, and you jump on an eyeliner trend to make your eyes longer, but you pull your eyes back and you call me a chink. You ask where did I move from, and that my English is so good because I've only been in New York for 6 months, but I was born here, in America. So then you tell me to go back to where I came from, but I was born here, in America. And you get random ass Chinese words tattooed on your bodies, and yet you mock our language with Change Hong.
Yep.
You say you love Asian women, but really you love the idea of total submission. Your people call us a virus, and you are silent. 6 people in Atlanta are silent. But you cannot silence me, and you cannot silence us, because I am proud of my long slanted eyes and the way that my language sounds. I am proud of my culture and my food, and I am proudly Taiwanese American. For our people and for our heritage. And so, America, I ask you to see me. I ask you to see me. There is a common misconception that Asian people are not people of color. People often point to things like the wage gap as a way to argue that we are not struggling. But though on average, technically, we make more than white people, we have the highest wage gap in our communities between our highest and lowest paid. This is why we don't receive support. In New York City alone, over 1 in 4 Asian people live under the poverty line, with most of them being elders, our most vulnerable people in our population. This is just because of the model minority myth. And white supremacy has been lying to all of us and pitting us against each other because they know that once we unite, we can dismantle white supremacy. Communities. On my end, I pledge to continue to call out and check my people for their anti-blackness. I commit to continue fighting against my own anti-blackness, and I appreciate every single black organizer who has ever called me out and had a conversation with me. Because activism is truly about growth. Because we have all internalized racism and xenophobia and anti-blackness in this xenophobic, racist, and anti-black society. We have all consumed American media, culture, and education. However, this idea that black and Asian communities have historically not shown up for each other is a lie, and it erases the work that has been done to unite our communities. Our liberation has always bounced off one another. The Black Panther Party was inspired by Mao's movement in China. Stop Asian Hate would not be here today without Black Lives Matter. Malcolm X died in Yuri Kochiyama's arms. Martin Luther King advocated against the Vietnam War, and people like Grace Lee Boggs worked alongside him in the fight for civil rights in the 60s. And so we have the black community today to thank for even having naturalization. And I am so proud to see all of my Asian people who have showed up for Black Lives Matter over the summer and even today, because none of us are safe from white supremacy. The issues that don't concern you, one day there will be no one left to fight for you. White supremacy wants to see us divided for a reason. We are minorities for a reason, because we are all living on stolen land, built on stolen labor by stolen people and stolen resources. For the justice and equality and equity of all of our people of color siblings, because it is not pie. Equality and equity for any of us does not mean any less for anyone else. And this is a movement, not a moment. And I am so grateful to see the Asian people have shown up for black communities and all the black people who have shown up for Asian communities. And my name is Emma Tang. Thank you so much for having me.
Go Emma!
Go Emma!
Thank you, speakers!
I am honored now to introduce my friend Sammy Kim, who is a queer, non-binary Korean American artist, healer, and sex worker.
Hey everybody, like Jeannie said, my name is Sammy Kim. I am a non-binary, queer, Korean American sex worker, lives in Brooklyn. I want to thank Warriors of the Garden for inviting me to come here and speak today. I was attending a lot of the protests last year for BLM, and Warriors in the Garden was a huge space that I attended a lot of their events, and I think they contributed to a lot of the education and radicalization of our intersectional communities. So it is such an honor to be here with everyone today and to be further showing up and talking about the solidarity and the intersectionality that we need to have when we're talking about this fight for justice. And thank you everyone here for showing up and sharing this space together, because by showing up, you're showing that you care. And the lack of care is what we're here to change.
Yes.
I'm here today because our community is deeply hurting. We are in so much pain after 8 Asian women were killed in Atlanta at the hands of a 21-year-old white man at a massage parlor. It was actually 8 people that were killed. 6 were Asian women. 1 was a Mexican woman who was a customer, and 1 white man. And we're outraged with the way that the police defended the shooter in a press conference, defended his right to a bad day, while 8 were slain, will never live another good one. We need to focus and talk about the layers of misogyny and racism and classism that killed these people and these Asian women. These were women who worked low-wage jobs, literally doing care work, body work, healing work to other strangers' bodies, not just massaging the physical pain in their bodies, but also doing massive emotional labor that is part of body work and sex work.
That's true.
How can that work, that care work, be so disregarded and so disrespected, mocked as cheap sexual favors with the insinuated abuse of power over these Asian workers coming from immigrant backgrounds, sometimes undocumented, taken advantage of for their disadvantaged position to defend themselves? As a queer Asian sex worker myself, I feel like I understand the difficulty and the hardship that goes into this body work and this healing work. A lot of times, people that I work with, clients that I work with, are typically always white, cis, het, older men. The typical white patriarchy, right?
Surprise!
And during these instances where it is a transactional service, I think there's a lot of misconception about sex work, that the most difficult part of it is selling your body, is the hardship of disrespecting your body and the sexual favors that you exchange to survive. But alongside with the hardships of that, of the physical labor, it's, to me, the emotional labor that is the hardest thing that people don't understand. It's being in a position to enact an enormous amount of patience with people, to provide a safe space to even the people who are in positions of oppression. And it is that level of patience and listening and care that we need to learn and enact for one another, and also, yes, the people who are in positions who are oppressing us. And it is that amount of care that I want us to really focus on when we're talking about fighting for intersectional solidarity and justice.
You got this! You love it, Sammy! You love it, Sammy!
As the rising amounts of hate crimes and brutalizations and violence against the Asian community rises in the media, we're seeing these hashtags, stop AAPI hate, stop Asian hate circulating. And a lot of times I see these news reports and I see people wanting justice for these victims. And we want the attackers of these victims to be held accountable. But in these instances, instead of weaponizing our rage for retribution, seeking punishment for the harm these individuals have done, again, it is the care that we need to focus on in these instances. Our first focus must be protecting ourselves and our community. Because who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe!
We are here because we believe in protecting Black women. And we are here because we believe in protecting Asian women. And if you truly care about their safety, we must be anti-carceral state. We must be anti-police. We must demand defunding, de-investment in police, reinvestment in community fortifying initiatives led by communities, and then dismantling and abolishing the system altogether. Watching the unfolding horrific reports of violence and hate towards the Asian community happening right now, of course we want these victims to have justice. And we want these attackers to be held accountable. And I see celebrities putting out cash rewards if these attackers are found and put in jail. But unfortunately, our communities have been so conditioned to turn to the police when seeking accountability, to incarcerate them and punish them for the hate they enacted. But as we know, the police presence is more harmful to our communities than helpful because their objective is actually not justice, but to further protect the white supremacist patriarchy. And as we push for justice for our people, we need to be mindful of how punitive and carceral justice only further harms us. We need to learn new methods of accountability that don't perpetuate this harm, but are rooted in transformative justice. As we heal, we need to reimagine this paradigm that we exist under. And a major way that we do that is, look around you, intersectional solidarity. We must understand solidarity equals liberation, because we're all oppressed by the same force. The oppressors that oppress Asian women are the same oppressors that oppress Black women, are the same oppressors that oppress trans people, queer people, sex workers, that attack the elderly, the disabled, the Latinx community, indigenous people, immigrants, undocumented people, everybody. And these oppressive forces are not only within the white cishet men, the Karens, it has stained our communities too. But we cannot pit ourselves against each other. And we can't expect that when we fight for each other, that this is going to be a transactional exchange. I don't fight for you because you fight for me. There's a lot of frustration I see within our community saying, you were there for BLM, so where are you for Asian lives? Or why aren't you showing up? Why aren't you doing more to help our communities? But it is that colonizer's mindset to make us believe that there's a scarcity of space that we need to compete to claim. It makes us hoard our resources and trust only those who look like us in order to keep us weak and divided. But in response, we must focus on care. Think about the care that we as oppressed people have been repressed from for centuries because of the colonizer's work. Look at what it has done to us. Imagine who we could be if we gave that care back to one another, how we could flourish, how abundant our shared world would be. Look around you. Everybody here showed up to show that you care. So first and foremost, when enacting care, you must care for your own well-being first. So in this moment, in this enormous amount of pain, take time to feel your sadness and your rage and your hurt, your confusion, because this shit is confusing as fuck, it does not make any sense. And focus on your design for better. And express yourself publicly or privately, and take as much time as you need. Because your wellness and health is vital to dissolving hate and terrorism. Whenever you're ready, remember that we can only achieve wellness through the support that surrounds us. Take up space, and remember that this space that we take up is shared. We must listen to each other in the pain and the stories that we share, and we must amplify each other's stories along with ours. This care that we enact needs to be intersectional. My name is Sammy Kim, and thank you everybody for showing up today and showing the effort.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, my very, very close friend, Chiose.
My name is Chiose. I am a part of Warriors in the Garden. I'm a candidate running for New York City Council. If you have trouble pronouncing my name, think of our god-awful national anthem, O Say Can You Chi. Now I'm fucking tired. I know it's a weird thing for me to be saying that when our Stonewall comrades are out here every single week protesting. But I am more tired of white supremacy.
As we all should be.
We are here today to demonstrate a proud and defiant solidarity, defiant against the forces of white supremacy, working each day to divide us, and united in our commitment that they will not succeed. And we are here for women of color, Black and Indigenous women of color. Black and Indigenous women have borne the brunt of our society's evil and shoulder the burden of fighting them.
That part.
We thank you.
That part.
And we stand alongside you. When such tragedies like Atlanta strike in this country, people who think words suffice for action are quick to repeat their practice refrain. This is not who we are. We are better than this. This is not America.
Are we?
This is America. This is the flesh of America. This is the root of America. America is rooted in violence.
Hey.
And who taught us this violence?
White.
Who taught us this violence?
White man. White man.
For all there is to love about our country, we must remember its true roots. The nation of immigrants was the nation of chattel slavery. Open immigration from Europe, but a change in immigrant demographics yielded the Chinese Exclusion Act. We preach the rhetoric of equality, but the system is built for white folks at the expense of all the rest. Of my two grandmothers, one is Chinese, the other is Black. Their stories in many ways represent the struggles of women across our country and city, but so does their perseverance. Their hard work demands recognition, their love demands reciprocation, and their lives demand respect. It was humbling to see the diversity of the crowds that turned out for Black Lives Matter this summer. And in this moment that calls for Black and Asian solidarity, I am proud to stand with you. But let's remember that solidarity is not a passing moment. It's a way of life. So to the Asian women experiencing a horrific spike in hate crimes, to the women of color across our city, know this: we see you. We are with you. We will root out the forces of racism and defeat agents of white supremacy. And I promise you this: we will be safe and whole, and we will do it together. Thank you.
And now, the next speaker, Jess.
Hi, my name is Jessica. I'm an 18-year-old Chinese American raised and born in Chinatown. I am incredibly honored to be speaking in this space. As an Asian American, I was born into a conservative Christian household. A household with a Republican father that sure as hell did not believe in white supremacy. And damn well, and only believed in the American dream. I was born with it in my surroundings. You can only tell how hard opening up these conversations were. This is my experience as an Asian American. I can't speak for any other culture, any other household, but this was my experience. My older sister opened up many conversations with me, and I was held accountable countless times, which led me to opening up the conversations to my father and arguing with him for countless hours. He started to talk about defunding of the police. He started to actually believe it. The next step would be helping him understand abolition. When I first started talking about Asian and Black solidarity, I had the struggle of communicating it to the native Asian speakers. Once I organized my first Black and Asian solidarity event, my dad came to me and told me he was there. He was there when I was speaking at Washington Square Park. On my way home, he told me how he had to explain and opened up the conversations of defunding the police to many different Asian elders. It takes only one person to open up these conversations. This motivates me to open up these conversations in the Asian community. I personally feel compelled to go into the community and open these discussions. Also, with the recent hate crimes, there have been rallies. There have been rallies with a lot of toxic cis het straight men energy. The conversations that they've had are not the rhetoric that I want to spill into the Asian community. The rhetoric that they provide is the rhetoric of embedded racism that has caused the division. I want to put that rhetoric to rest. I want to go into these Asian communities and amplify abolishing the police, abolishing ICE, abolishing the system that makes us forget that we are the real backbones of America and that we belong here just as much as anyone else. I am not here to tell one group to be held accountable for their actions, but we have to hold our peers accountable. There will always be bad seeds in every community, but we can't assume that everyone in that community is a bad seed. But to hold each other accountable and to stop each other from the microaggressions and stop each other from the biased remarks, we are protecting each other, no matter our skin color.
Talk about it, John! Talk about it!
I completely understand that as a fair-skinned individual, I acknowledge that I have more privilege than a Black and brown person. But we cannot ignore and turn a blind eye to the injustices towards Asians.
That's right. That's right.
This is not a space to call for more policing.
Absolutely.
Officers do not prevent harm. They come after the fact. Officers have disproportionately harmed by POCs. We have to abolish the system and place the funds into mental health. We have to stop the stigma of mental health. Mental health is having food on our plates, a roof over our heads, clothes on our backs, and to feel welcomed. That have experienced trauma under white supremacy. And to understand that once we feel the power of the community,
we will realize that coming together with full understanding, we are able to reimagine the revolution without division. It is important to allow communities to hold spaces, to express their trauma, and to not dismiss it. The erasal of one's history is what white supremacy wants. To not take accountability and to not acknowledge the harm that they have caused. True solidarity is with inclusivity. We cannot have true solidarity if there are still microaggressions. And that is what we have to unlearn. I am 110% here for solidarity. But solidarity means equality, not the hierarchy of the oppressed. We have to learn the oppression of different communities. Once we're able to come to a common understanding, then we can unite under Black Lives Matter movement. Once we realize our oppression is from the same cause, white supremacy, as Black folks have been the most and openly oppressed groups of people. Thank you.
We love you, Jeff!
Now I would like to introduce an activist and someone who's been fighting with us since the summer, Kat.
Hey my name is Kat. I want to start off by pointing out how there are so many women of color within the leadership of this action today, because in the past few weeks we've seen so many actions against Asian hate led by straight Asian men, with no women, let alone any members of the LGBTQ community. And I just want to call those people out because their actions are not intersectional. And this is not a fight that you can fight without Asian women, because your racial experience as a straight man is entirely different from mine. And your gender did not get you killed last Tuesday. And these are the same Asian men, these straight Asian men, I want to make clear, that are anti-black and they push a pro-cop agenda and they support politicians who do the same. And that is so violent to do in this space that has been created for us by the black community who dies at the hands of those same police. And I also want to point out that we are literally next to a detention center, which is, of course, a part of the prison industrial complex.
Yes! Yes!
I am Chinese, I am American, I'm a Chinese American woman, and I'm a woman of color. Like we've talked about earlier, I realized this year that some people don't see me as a person of color. They see me as white. I've heard the term white Asians being used. And this is the first time I've heard that in my life, and it goes against every single life experience that I've had. And if you still say this, or you don't see a problem with this, I want you to listen to us and hear from us personally why that is so dangerous and hurtful. Our existence in this country is as people of color. Attaching the label of white to me is dangerous, especially in a country like America, because whiteness holds so much power, and we do not have that power. This is not to deny the privilege that I have from being lighter skinned, which I can't deny, but it assigns a white privilege to me that I don't have. It connotates being the majority, not being othered, and being safe in my surroundings. I feel that the only reason that we are being called white today is because you can't call us yellow. And if we were truly white, or even white Asians, I wouldn't be up here today. None of us would be here today at this rally. I want to take some time to talk about the colonization of some East and Southeast Asian countries, because we don't learn about this in school, and it has everything to do with what we're fighting against today. We're not always included in the conversation, but we are colonized people. I'm going to start off with China because I am Chinese. China was colonized by the British, by the French, and the Portuguese. If you go to Shanghai today, which is a city I lived in for 6 years, you can still see streets with French names. And there's places like the French Concession, which used to be essentially small colonies within the city, and only Europeans were allowed in. Chinese people were not allowed into parts of their own city and their own land. And today, white people, Europeans, and expats go to Shanghai and they hail those parts of the city as the prettiest parts because it's European architecture, and these are colonial remnants. The British forcibly took Hong Kong from China in 1897 because we refused to trade drugs with them. And Hong Kong was only returned to China in 1997, which is during so many of our lifetimes. The port city of Macau was also settled by the Portuguese in 1557 and wasn't given back until 4 centuries later in 1999. And it's not surprising that today Hong Kong is used by the US to sow anti-China sentiment because it has so much invested interest in creating conflict between our countries. We don't learn about the atrocities and war crimes that China suffered under the hands of the Japanese army, like the Nanjing Massacre or the rape of Nanking, where they killed and raped over 300,000 of us. They conducted medical experiments on us, and they destroyed the records, and they still haven't apologized to this day. And of course, they did the same to the Koreans, and there are still Korean women alive today who survived the sex slavery under the Japanese army. And of course, Japan is an imperial power, and it's not surprising that so many Americans see Japan as the only civilized Asian country, the only morally equivalent society in Asia. We don't talk about how the Philippines was colonized by the Spanish in the 1500s, where it was pillaged and its people were enslaved for over 3 centuries before being ceded to the US for $20 million. We paid for that country and we owned it until 1946. And we don't talk about how today Filipinos make up 4% of the nurses in this country, but they make up 32% of the nurses who have died since the pandemic began. We don't talk about how Indonesia was colonized by the Dutch for 4 centuries. While the Dutch set up the Dutch West Indies in the Caribbean to colonize those islands, they set up the Dutch East Indies in Indonesia. And Indonesia didn't become fully independent until 1949. And today we see the island of Bali, like so many others, taken over by white backpackers, begging for money, people gentrifying the island who can't even tell you what country they're in. We don't talk about how the French colonized Southeast Asia for 6 decades, or the Cambodian genocide, which was committed by communist forces that the US secretly supported. We don't talk about the US war crimes in Cambodia or Laos, or how Laos is the most bombed country in the world today because of what Nixon and Kissinger did. They launched a secret bombing campaign on Laos in 1964. Nobody knew about it, Congress didn't know about it, and they expanded it into Cambodia in 1969. And in 1969 alone, they bombed Laos more than they bombed Japan in all of World War II, more than the 2 nuclear bombs that they dropped in Japan. We decimated their land and we created refugees out of their people, just like we did to Vietnam. And yet people still dare to tell our Southeast Asian siblings to go back to their countries. Just last Monday, on March 15th, the Biden administration deported 33 Vietnamese immigrants and refugees, people who are only in this country because of an illegal war that we waged. And so while our president makes performative statements against anti-Asian violence, he is complicit in that violence himself.
Fuck Biden.
We cannot separate today's white supremacy from the centuries of colonial subjugation that our country suffered. We are still seen as exotic, as oriental, but also as backwards and uncivilized. And in standing in solidarity with our other communities of color, we must see how the US continues these colonial processes and anti-black racism and immigrant exploitation and settler colonialism. These stories are never told, and we are seen as a monolith, and we will perpetually be foreigners in this country. We spend our whole lives defending ourselves, and that hurts because it hurts to defend the country we're from or what our parents look like. And as a Chinese person, I'm often seen as a reflection of what the Chinese government is doing. When I speak about hate crimes, people are so fast to respond with, what about the Uyghurs? What about Hong Kong? I mean, it's your fault because you're okay with genocide. But nothing you learn about in this country is unintentional, especially about a country like China. And there's a reason why you'll never see a single positive headline about China. But I exist, and we exist outside of that US propaganda. I've always found it really hard to speak up about issues that pertain to myself. I could rant to you about Palestine all day long, but when it comes to myself, we've always been taught to stay silent and not overstep, but then instead we're stepped on ourselves. We remain silent, and that's really hard. When America sees me, they see a number of things. They see a virus, they see ching chong, they see rice farmer hats and things like that. They see my eyes. They see a dog eater, because I saw this in a video the other day. White people will always care about animals more than they have ever cared about people of color. And so when they say dog eater, it's because they've managed to justify their hatred of us by framing it within the lens of animal rights. It's almost comical to think about how I went to NYU and there were so many people who would say to my face, "Have you ever eaten dog? Even just like a little bit?" The racism, of course, isn't just limited to calling me a slur. It's coming to me with a math question, or dismissing what I've achieved in my life because you're Asian, you're supposed to be smart. It's looking at my parents funny at TSA, because at customs in the airport, because they speak with an accent, and then immediately looking relieved when you hear my American accent. It's when someone confuses me for the only other Asian in the room, which so many of us have gone through. Even within the past year of protesting, we've experienced this. People will mix up Jess and I. You can see us right now, we look nothing alike. We're different ages, different heights, we have different hair, we have different eyes. And yet people, even after weeks of meeting us, would mix us up.
Not all Asians are
And this
alike.
is just like when white teachers would mix us up in the classroom. Or people would assume that I had all these siblings in different grades because we have the same last name, but my last name is Chen, which is the 4th most common last name in the world. We're not all siblings. And when you mix us up like that, what it really tells me is that you don't humanize us, you don't see us as something other than our race. When you look at us, when you look at me, you see an Asian, you don't see cat. I am the daughter of Chinese immigrants who were only able to come to this country because the US saw the value in them for having high-skilled labor. I was raised in a white suburb where I was surrounded by white families on TV and in real life. And I didn't outright hate my culture, but I wanted to be normal, I wanted to eat normal things, I wanted to live a normal life. I moved to China in middle school and I went to an international school. I lived among a lot of expats, and thinking back, I'm surprised that I didn't realize how the specter of whiteness followed me all the way to China. I faced similar racism and microaggressions from non-Asian classmates and teachers in a school that proudly showcased itself as American by advertising its white students. Racial preferences were talked about openly among people my age, and you knew who would and would never date an Asian person. I had white boys tell me to my face that I reignited their yellow fever, as if I should have been proud. And under white supremacy and the white gaze, we are reduced to exactly that, a fetish. I can guarantee you that if you ask any Asian woman here, that we can sense a man with yellow fever from miles away. In the colonizers' eyes, we will always be something to conquer and dominate like they did our countries. We cannot talk about the recent shooting without talking about sex workers and how we dehumanize them. And we have to address the fact that they are so stigmatized that even after this shooting, we refuse to talk about it. When we do that, we allow them to die in silence, and we allow the killer's feelings to matter more than their lives. And the killer's racist fetish has historical roots. Asian women have always been seen as sexual threats and sexual objects. In the 19th century, in the Page Act of 1875, Chinese women were effectively banned from immigrating because we were seen as prostitutes and a threat. And so they banned people from Oriental countries from being brought here for lewd and immoral purposes. And these over-sexualized stereotypes are still in place on us today. We have to keep sex workers in the conversation, and we have to destigmatize their work. Sex workers are human beings, and they deserve to make money and to live with the same dignity that we grant everyone else. Today's hate didn't begin with COVID. It began when we were shipped to European colonies as indentured servants, and when we built the railroads for this country. It began when we were pit against other people of color to uphold capitalism and white supremacy. And the hate surely does not end with undoing the model minority myth or accepting us as Americans. But as Asians, we must also recognize that we are only fighting today because of a momentum set off by movements like Standing Rock and Black Lives Matter. We cannot leave them out of our fight, and we must stand in solidarity with other communities of color and recognize everything that these communities have fought for and how that has benefited us as well. My name is Kat. My Chinese name is Chen Tingting. And I just want to end with a little anecdote, because once my friend jokingly called me by my Chinese name. They use it as a nickname sometimes, and a white person overheard, and they're like, "That's racist. You can't call her that." And I was like, "What?" And that's a result of racism that white people created. It's my name. It's my Chinese name. It's not my fault that you've never heard a Chinese name like that before, or that you can't pronounce the tones. So to you, it's just a sound. And yeah, thank you.
While she was giving y'all that history lesson, y'all understood what she was saying at the end.
Thank you, Kat!
Okay. I'm going to introduce my close friends. They've been fighting with me since day one. We've been fighting together for Black liberation. Nia from Freedom March, and Na.
Black lives! Black lives! Black trans lives! Black trans lives! Black trans lives! I'm going to start with a quote from Miss Crenshaw, Kimberly Crenshaw.
That's right.
Social justice doesn't trickle down. So we should center the experiences of the most vulnerable first. That's how we should determine our agenda. So, if we address the problem that white gay people who want to marry immigrants have, you won't necessarily have addressed the problems of two undocumented queer people who aren't partnered with a citizen. Although, if you address the problems of undocumented queer people, you will address the problems of somebody who wants to marry an immigrant. And if you address the issues of professional white lesbians and their parental rights, you won't solve the problem of low-income mothers of color or imprisoned mothers who the child welfare system targets for separation from their family. But if you do the reverse, if we really upended the child welfare system and made it about reunification of families and communities, then inevitably that would have beneficial effects on rich, white gay people who want to make sure that they have parental rights. So it doesn't trickle up, but it does trickle down. So it does trickle up, but it doesn't trickle down. Now, I say that to say that when we fight for the lives of Black trans women, we are fighting for the lives of all people in this world. This is what community looks like. This is what unity looks like. When we show up for each other radically, that is how we create sustainable change. When we show up for the most oppressed person in this world, that is how we liberate everyone. I say that to say that our focus as we come together, as we form coalitions, as we form communities within each other, with our Latino brothers and sisters, with our indigenous brothers and sisters, with our Black brothers and sisters, with our Asian brothers and sisters, we are uprooting white supremacy once and for all. Our energy, our time, our commitment, our fight should be focused on the Black trans woman. Because that is truly how you kill all birds with a single stone. We must remember that as we come onto these streets. We must remember that as we march in solidarity and call for solidarity, as we attempt to free the kids out of those cages, as we attempt to tear down the border, as we attempt to liberate each other. The Rainbow Coalition was successful for the time that Fred Hampton was alive because everybody in that coalition understood their privilege and understood how they could benefit from the oppression of black people. And we are here to end the oppression of black people. We are here to end the oppression of black trans women. Every social justice movement in this country, in this world, has been led by black women. Yeah! And when we recognize that, we are recognizing our collective power. When we recognize that black women are the reason that white babies were nourished, are the reason why we have culture and we have long nails and long beautiful wigs and colorful wigs and music. We are truly accepting each other into these communities. This fight is bigger than us. It's bigger than every single one of us. This fight is bigger than America. This fight is about the world in its entirety. We are here today because we will no longer stand for any injustice in this country. We are here today because we are tired of being silent, because we know that silence is violence. We are here today because we are truly trying to build a better world. We are here today because we understand that abolishing the police is destroying a system that does not work for everyone and creating a new one that works for everyone. We are here because we are freedom fighters. This fight will never end until we abolish capitalism. Because capitalism does not discriminate. It doesn't discriminate against anyone, any race, any singular person. We want to stop the erasure of black people in this world. As long as we stand united, nothing can defeat us. Because the people united will never be defeated. 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 We must all move with love. This movement was made out of love. This movement came forth because we know that love is the one energy that can change the world, the only energy that can change the world. We must all move with love and compassion. We must all move with understanding. That is how we build community. We don't need any politician. No politician will save us. The power is with the people. That is what democracy is. We are calling for direct democracy, where the people actually make the changes. We are tired of waiting for politicians to make changes that we have needed for so long. We are done waiting, and we are no longer waiting, and that is why we are all out here. Who protects us? We protect us. Who protects us? We protect us. Who protects us? We protect us. As we move from this space, it is important, it is imperative to realize that the fight does not stop here. The fight does not stop here. You must go to your racist uncles and aunts, and you must educate them, and you must continue to do so until they are tired of hearing it, and even then some. We are angry, and rightfully so. We have been angry, and rightfully so. Now it is time to turn that anger and frustration into power and passion. Into power and passion. And that means that we need to educate ourselves. That means that we need to educate ourselves and not just using Instagram. We need to read. We need to do the research so that we can spread this knowledge. Because just standing here and marching is the bare minimum.
That's right.
Fighting for the liberation of all people doesn't stop or start here. We must continue to move forward vigilantly with respect, love, and dignity. That is how we win. Thank you.
Well, damn. Y'all gotta give him more energy than that. How's everybody doing today? Y'all are from New York City, so I need a little bit more energy. How are y'all doing today? Beautiful, beautiful. So I just want to take a moment to just have a moment of silence, just for a few seconds, for the Black lives that we have lost, as well as the Asian lives that we have lost, as well as the Black and Asian lives that have been traumatized due to the hate crimes that have been put on their own community. So we will just have a moment of silence. Thank you. On April 4th, 1969, Fred Hampton established the Rainbow Coalition. If you know your history, if you know what Black Lives Matter has been about, you know the truth that it was successful because we were under the lives and of Black people. We were fighting under Black liberation. When we say Black Lives Matter, we are saying and putting emphasis that Black lives need to be brought into the conversation. Now we are fighting for the Asian lives that have been erased, the Asian lives that have been fetishized, sexualized, as well as Black women. Today I'm standing up here as a Black woman, a child of Jamaican immigrants, someone who once believed in the American dream, once believed that I need to be going into schools, I need to be getting A's, I need to be getting the best grades, I need to be getting into the right institutions to make sure I'm making a name for myself because my mother came to this country with nothing on her back and a few dollars in her pockets. And that is the exact same experience that many Chinese and Asian immigrants have had in this country. I will not stand here and say I know what an Asian woman is feeling, but I know what it is like to be fetishized, to be sexualized, to be abused. I know what it is like, and that is exactly why I fight for you the same way you fight for me. To my allies, I will speak to you for the rest of my speech. How many, this is a safe space by the way, y'all. How many of you guys is just now coming out to Asian Lives protests? How many of you guys are just now coming out to the BLM protest?
Okay, so
this is a safe space. How many of you guys are having these conversations at home with your bigot fathers, your transphobic mothers, your homophobic uncles, those aunts that you guys love so much but have pure hatred in their hearts?
Talk about it.
Those grandparents that you guys love oh so dearly but have anti-blackness throughout their blood. And this is not excluding anybody. I know for a fact it took me a while to even stand up inside of my own household when it came to my mother and my own family members and their mentalities. Normalize unlearning and learning. Normalize knowing the experiences of those you do not know. I know for a fact, I get my nails done in an Asian community. I get my nails done and her name is Emily and I love her oh so dearly and I talk to her every single day. So, speaking of which, one of my nails broke the other day so I gotta go get them fixed. So I'm gonna go to Emily. I know for a fact that the white people here in this audience know what the others in your community are doing. From the fox eye trends that you guys love oh so much to try, to the extensions that you don't even know where they came from and whose head it was shaved off of, to the contour, to the makeup that you guys got from black trans women. I say that to say that this fight does not exclude anyone. This fight is inclusive, it is intersectional, and make sure you guys are showing up and showing out, not just in the streets. And that does not exclude the white gay men who are using AAVE from black women and black trans women. How y'all love to say purr so much. Learn who you got it from. Know your history and know the truth. When you learn about COVID and how you want to blame it on the Asian community, know the truth. And I say that to say that this is a revolution and it will not stop. We are just beginning. And make sure you guys are showing up for people who do not look like you. You can't stop the revolution! You can't stop the revolution! You can't stop the revolution! And that's that on that.
So we will begin marching soon. We have one more speaker, Jess, another Jess.
Hello, my name is Jess. I'm a first-generation Chinese Hong Kong American. I was born and raised in Queens, New York. Our mere struggles and existence have been invisibilized, made invisible, intersected with the model minority. We are used when we're needed, gaslit, and then pushed aside when we're not needed. From the streets to the corporate workplace, as an Asian woman, I've had to work that much harder to prove my mere existence and contributions. An ex-VP hired a Korean American assistant just for the mere fact that she seemed easily scared. This was the same VP that at happy hour told us he did not date Asians because motioning a hair flip, hello, Aryan. And even when being murdered in the hands of white supremacy in Atlanta, the 6 Asian women were further invisibilized and dehumanized. And for that not to be called a hate crime tells you that much about the foundations and the systems of our country. When 4%, the Asian population in the state of Georgia is 4%, all 3 businesses targeted were all witnesses, and you're telling me it's not a hate crime. Shame! Shame! The blatant racism is nothing new to BIPOC children. But as Asian American children, we face a different level where our families, culture, our food, our motherland, our native tongues, and our bodies are punchlines to your racist jokes. And that has been normalized. My cousin came home from the first grade learning that the mother of her best friend told her that Asians look like they got a steamroller hit across the face. My Filipino friend celebrated his 21st birthday at Peter Luger's, and when his mother and sister walked by two white waiters, they said, "Look who's selling $5 CDs." Shame! When we moved to a better neighborhood for the school system, the Italian grandmother next door loved us, but told us that she didn't want her neighborhood to turn into a ghetto. The objectification, fetishization, and sexualization of Asian women sits at the intersection of white colonialism, misogyny, and rape culture. And we have to realize that violence is not always physical. The weight of mental and emotional trauma from racism is also a form of violence. When I designed for a global designer underwear brand, when we had to make changes for different regions to accommodate to cultures in the product, we had a request from the Asian merchants to make the undergarments more modest and not sheer. In a room full of vice presidents and directors and seniors, a colleague said, "I don't know why we have to make it so modest. You know how Asian women are." But we have to realize also that we are here to fight for liberation, to fight for a better tomorrow, and we have to call out all forms of racism, from microaggressions to blatant racism. Our fight for this liberation is collective. It's intergenerational, it's intersectional, and it must be interracial. We have to uplift Black women voices. We have to listen and uplift Asian women voices, Latinx, and Indigenous. It is not protect our women and children. It is empower and uplift our women. And even though racism is nothing new, Black and Asian solidarity is also nothing new. We have to know our history and teach our history to our children, students, nieces, nephews. Just like we have to know the first walk to freedom in 1963 on Woodward Avenue in Detroit, Michigan, for Martin Luther King Jr.'s first I Have a Dream speech, one of the organizers was a Chinese American woman. And there is only proof in one video of her standing in the background. Her name was Grace Lee Boggs. We have to know that Yuri Kochiyama organized and fought alongside Puerto Rican and Black men uptown to be hired as construction workers when the buildings were coming up in the 50s and 60s. We have to know that Malcolm X was at Yuri Kochiyama's apartment in Harlem to meet with the Japanese atomic bomb survivors. There's the iconic photo of Malcolm X when he was assassinated. And who was holding his head? Because that part of the photo has always been cropped off in print. And that person holding his head as he was laying there dead and dying was Yuri Kochiyama, a Japanese-American woman. And if that image was not so conveniently cut off, cropped off, can you imagine what kind of perspectives and views and relationships that would have sparked in young children, in students, and also other adults trying to learn about American history? When the murder of Vincent Chin in Detroit, Michigan, when two white men killed him and beat his head with a bat, leaving his brains on the street floor when authorities got there. Jesse Jackson and Helen Zia were fighting together to fight to get justice for his mother, but all the two murderers were fined was $3,000, which is less than a used car, and 3 years probation, because they did not look like the type to be imprisoned. And as I was talking to Jeannie last night, everything happens for a reason. And back in 1967, when the murder of Martin Luther King Jr. galvanized the Black Student Union in California to demand for a curriculum that represents their history, they stood in solidarity and unified with the Latinx students, the Asian students, and the African students. So, we are here today because we are galvanized by all the hate crimes and all the hate and all the murders and unjust murders here, that we are all standing together. And I'm here to say that I understand that I will never understand what it's like to be a Black woman, what it's like to be a Black person, but I will always fight alongside my Black brothers and sisters in the community. And also, we have buying power. Now we have to intentionally be anti-racist, but we also have to intentionally buy Black, buy Asian, buy Indigenous, and buy Latinx. Because we have to use our buying power to align with brands and companies that also share the same mission and values as us. And I just want to say the names of the lives that were lost: Hyungjun Grant, Julie Park, Dao Yufeng, Xiaoji Tan, Soon Chao Kim, Young A.U., Breonna Taylor, Michelle Cusseau, Ayanna Stanley Jones, Sandra Bland, Natasha McKenna, Shelley Frey, Kayla Moore, India Kager, Corinne Gaines, Tanisha Anderson. And if you don't know those names, we have to continue to break the structure that invisibilizes Black women. Follow Kimberly Crenshaw and follow Say Her Name. And I'm going to end it with, we just have to open our hearts and address our own biases and continue to intentionally be anti-racist. My name is Jessica Ng. Thank you.
We're literally about to start marching in 2 minutes. But I want the security team that has been protecting us since day one, literally, like, we getting beat by the cops, they throw their bike in front of you, like, you know? So I'm gonna have them say a few words about security, and we gonna get going.
Who protects us? We protect us! Who protects us? We protect us! For those of you who do not know me, my name is Biggs. I'm an organizer, but I've also been on the front lines making sure that people have been safe since I stepped out onto these streets.
taken that to the next level, and I'm currently in training to become an EMT, in which the community funded me through that. But as I stood here today and listened to these women speak, it brings me to say this to you. Every single one of us have a job to do today. And that's to make sure that we get where we are going safely. Every accomplice in the crowd today has a job to do, and that is to protect and defend BIPOC women. But it will lead me to saying this. I've seen it happen in organizing spaces before, but today it will not. We are not tolerating any homophobia. We are not tolerating any transphobia. We are not tolerating any misogyny. We are not tolerating any xenophobia. We are not tolerating any anti-blackness. We are not tolerating any discrimination this evening. And so forth through the rest of this movement. Myself and the rest of the people on the security team today will have all eyes out. We watching you. We watching. So, what I will close out with is be mindful as to why you came out here today. Be mindful as to why you stepped onto the streets today. And the moment you catch yourself, if you do, doing something that you shouldn't be doing, think about the people that are watching you. If I see any disrespect happen today, towards any of the organizers, towards any BIPOC person amongst the crowd, you will simply be asked to leave. And I mean that. And that's on period. So with that being said, who's ready to march? Who's ready to march? All right, guys, we'll be leaving out that way. Hold on. Wait. My bad. I forgot something. Oops. Someone mentioned the businesses that will be going by earlier this evening. So I want you guys to be mindful of the community that we are going through. Do not vandalize those businesses. Do not bang on the outdoor structures that they have for dining. Do not do that. Do not do it. Love you. But also to that, is there any medically trained people in the crowd today? Anyone have any CPR training, first aid, AED, anything? First responders or anything of that sort? Okay, thank you for raising your hand. Anybody else?
All right, so
raise your hands.
We're going to get ready to march here. Again, we are in Chinatown, New York City.
For those of you who have been out here with us for long enough, you know what our emergency signal is. Please put an X over your head. All right, if you see an X going over someone's head, you also put an X over your head, and then you point in the direction in which that X is being signaled so that someone can come over and get that person some help. We've used X's before, and they work. So with that being said, I'm not going to say much else this evening. Thank you guys for being out here. Thank you, warriors. Thank you, all BIPOC women. Thank you, all BIPOC women that have come. And I've just been reminded of one more thing. We do experience vehicular violence while we're out here in the streets sometimes. So please, please, please be aware, be cautious of the cars that are around. We have security team out. It's okay, we got it. But if you hear someone yell the word scatter, you get out of the street without thinking twice. What's the word? Scatter. What's the word? Scatter. So if you hear me yelling scatter, one of the organizers yelling scatter, or anyone yelling scatter, do not think twice. It is a serious emergency. Thank you guys. Peace.
Alright, so I'm gonna, in the meantime, smash the like button, share the stream. Okay, they have the bikes going first. Like I say, guys, smash the like button, share the stream. All right, if you're not a member, become a member, statuscoup.com/join. Only $5 a month. You'll be funding me and me to be out here reporting. Also, super chats are welcome. Can I ask you a couple questions?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. If you could. It's up to you. Okay.
I'm camera shy.
That's all right, that's all right. Can I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
If you could, just start out, tell me why you're out here tonight.
I'm out here because do you want me to take this?
Yeah, good.
I'm out here because I'm fighting for Asian women, but also for black women and women of color. And it's been far too long and we haven't seen any sort of justice. And it's time. We have to do this now and all of us should be out here. And this is what needs to happen. And we need to fight for our justice.
Have you yourself experienced any bigoted slurs or any actions?
Nothing to the point of direct violence, but it was enough for family and for friends that it's been happening within the community so much, but I've just been so lucky. But even just saying that, it shouldn't be saying that in the first place.
Now, the hatred has exploded over the past 4 years in the Trump era. How do you think we can counter that?
How I would counter that?
What's that?
Can you repeat that? How I would counter that?
How we can, as a community, how can we counter it?
You come together. When you listen to women of color, trans women of color, queer women of color, you have to listen to us because the narrative of history has been told by white men time and time and time again, and they've been erased despite all their contributions. Every day we're pitted against each other as minorities, but the reason we're minorities is because we're not allowed to be the majority together again, and that has to stop.
Thank you very much. You want to give your name, where you're from?
My name's Lydia.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No more fucking cops! No badges! We don't need no cops!
Okay, thank you.
No more fucking cops! No badges!
All right, so this is Chinatown here. Excuse me, sorry. I'm gonna run up ahead. Excuse me. I'm sorry. All right, so we are in, this is, I guess, called Little Italy, Chinatown, Little Italy, same area. I'm gonna go a few more blocks with the march. I'm not sure where they're going, but I'm just gonna go a few more blocks. Hopefully try and get one more interview. It's a little loud, I can't hear. Hopefully you guys were able to hear that, the speaker before.
Chant, and I need y'all to sing it with me or yell it, because I'm a yell, but
It's probably holding space for me.
right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this coverage. I'm gonna stop here. So this is East Houston Street. I'm gonna stop here, but they're gonna hold the traffic. All right, everyone, I'm gonna stop here. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed that coverage. I'll be out here for more. Like I said, become a member. All right, statuscoup.com/join, $5 a month. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.